Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddler Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today you can't lose what you never had, but I was going to say we're going to lose our dignity today, but we are going to talk about Homer's dignity, or his battle with it, in the episode Homer versus Dignity. And of course, joining me as always, another undignified fellow, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
Can you draw me a picture of Dignity so I know what it looks like at least? That would be really, really helpful. Oh, wrong season. I'm doing just fine today, man. I find it weird that we always circle back with The Simpsons where the episode is about the same time of the year as it is in real life. And this episode has a Thanksgiving scene. It is, at the time of us recording, one day before Thanksgiving. So it's just always weird how we line up with The Simpsons. But I guess if you only record one episode a week, that kind of will stay the same throughout time. Or we've probably circled around a few times at this point. I've lost track. I don't know. Miles, you can say some words now. I'll throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the prank monkey, Miles.
I do love a good prank, but I'm with you on the dates lining up or the time of year lining up. Obviously, it doesn't always work out like that, and we've definitely circled around and passed and looped and all these sorts of things because The Simpsons takes breaks, and we don't take a week off, but we do alternate now with our Best Darn Everything, so it kind of throws the calendar out of alignment a little bit, but I think the one that was the wildest in terms of that was, didn't we do the Super Bowl episode on Super Bowl weekend or something like that? I felt like there was one where I even made the joke. It's when we started this at the time 4 years ago, we picked this date on the calendar because we knew it would line up. And definitely it's one of those things where, again, we didn't do a Best Darn Everything in between this week and last week. So, of course, the dates are going to line up pretty similarly. But today is November 24th as we record this. And this episode, Homer versus Dignity, originally aired on November 26th in the year 2000. Dang. So, again, just 2 days off of being exactly 21 years ago.
And for all we know, that was that probably was the Sunday after Thanksgiving that year.
Yeah. I mean, that would, I think, make sense on a calendar. That sounds right. I don't think it could be the Sunday after. I don't really remember how, isn't Thanksgiving always the third Thursday in every November?
I think it's the fourth Thursday. I don't know.
The fourth Thursday?
I'm not paid to tell you guys when Thanksgiving is.
This isn't a Thanksgiving podcast.
Unless
tune into Tom's Turkey Talk for that. That's a solid show.
1, 2, 3, 4. Tomorrow is the fourth Thursday of the month, for what it's worth.
All right, there you go. That makes sense. Good detective skills over there. Honestly, I'm both kind of happy and sad that we're just about to the end of me having to do in the year 2000, which is a bit I committed to. Since we started the year 2000, and we are now in November of the year 2000 in terms of our Simpsons reviews.
Well, I mean, you could still keep doing that, but then I could add the Mr. Black number at the end, like you do in the year 2000, and I go 1.
It might happen, but I don't want to. I don't want to commit. I feel like the bit has run into the ground at this point, and I'm just doing it for myself. But hey, it is what it is.
Why we started this podcast?
That is why we started this podcast. That's true. This is one that we talked about on our Best Darn. No, sorry, that's the wrong thing. Our Spectacular season 11 finale Spectacular. I had listed this one or mentioned this one as we were looking ahead to episodes that we were excited about, and this was one that I definitely was remembering as being a really funny episode. One that I laughed a lot at as a kid. And today we're going to find out if my sense of humor has matured at all, or if I'm still the same immature person that I've always been.
Yeah, and spoiler alert for on my side of things, I've been waiting to talk about this episode because I honestly, even as a kid, this was never really up there on my list of enjoyable Simpsons episodes. But we'll save that. I have been saying how much I've been enjoying the season so far.
Yeah, for sure. I'll say real quick, since we're on that, I'm going to pull it back on IMDb for just a second. I always kind of enjoy looking at the the episode ratings in terms of like what each episode its 10-point scale in IMDb. And this one is a 7.0 out of 10, which sounds pretty good, but actually for this season, it's at middle of the pack at best. Like there are some that are a couple of 6.9, 6.6, 6.8, it looks like. But this episode has a bunch of like 7.2, 7.4, and even 8s and up. So this episode falls in the middle of the pack. And I thought it was kind of funny that just I guess so happened that when I was doing my notes for this one, the very first thing that happened when I clicked on the episode on IMDb is a review popped up, and it was a 1.0 out of 10 review talking about how this is like the death of the Simpsons and just how bad it is. And I just bring that up to say that humans are so silly.
The Simpsons can't die.
I mean, I don't think that you can make a case that this of the Simpsons ever, but I don't think that anybody can reasonably make a case that this is a 1 out of 10 episode.
And without watching every episode of The Simpsons, I declare that no single person can dictate what is the best episode of The Simpsons. If you haven't seen them all, there's no way you could possibly know for sure.
That disqualifies me right there for what it's worth. And also just it's like with that many episodes, it would be very difficult to determine a best episode. I mean, people have been like arguing between like the Hank Scorpio episode and the Lisa gets breakfast. Lisa gets braces. Damn it, Lisa gets braces episode for like ever. Those are the two that end up, I think, in the rankings the most. But even right now, as I say that, the 4 people that listen to our podcast are all thinking like, that's not the best episode. This is the best episode, and they're all thinking of a different episode. So that is both the beauty. That is both the beauty and the curse of this great show. So let's talk about it today. Again, we are talking about Homer vs. Dignity. The chalkboard on this one was I was not the 6th Beatle. That one's just fine, but I really love the couch gag on this one, where we see the entirety of the family riding a skateboard and hitting a quarter pipe, landing a trick as they land on the couch. And everything goes super smooth for everyone except for, of course, Homer, who completely eats it.
Marge got some skills because she's holding Maggie while she does it.
Yeah, I know. She reminds me of, I don't know if you saw that video that's been going viral kind of recently, a few months ago now, probably at this point. But there is a guy at a baseball game holding a beer and a baby, and either a foul ball or a home run gets hit to him, and he freaking drops his baby, not drops her, but lets go of the baby, catches the ball, and recatches the baby without ever taking a drop, without ever dropping his beer. That's kind of what Marge reminds me of in this moment.
Yep.
Father of the year right there. That's all well and good until that kid's in therapy having to talk about my dad valued beer and baseball over me, but it was otherwise.
No. If that baby gets dropped, they're not going to have the capacity to know to go to therapy, so it's not going to matter.
Fair, yeah. That's it. He's not going to always catch the baby, so that kid's not going to make it long enough to have psychological issues. That's some optimistic outlook you have there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not the last. That's not the last harmed a kid joke we're going to have in this podcast.
Probably not. No, I would say
script goes.
Definitely not. Actually. So on that note, we kick off this episode with the Simpsons are all out eating at a restaurant, the Singing Sirloin. They're having a special occasion because Bart has gotten an A in school, which I feel like that's already happened, hasn't it? Isn't Bart got an A like the title of an episode we reviewed once?
I thought it was Bart gets an F.
Oh, maybe that's what maybe I flipped it in my mind.
And then Helper gets an F.
Yeah, somebody definitely got an A at some point. Probably just a bunch of Lisas. She just gave him one. But either way, he's got like a crown that says A on it. Instead, there's a mariachi band singing, and they're singing instead of singing Happy Birthday, they're singing Happy First Day. Which, funny enough, actually, according to IMDb, there was actually an issue on one of the language tracks for that. It's in the Mexican dubbing. They accidentally dubbed it Happy Birthday instead of Happy First Day, which kind of ruins the joke.
Mm-hmm.
It probably makes it very confusing.
Unless it's the birth of an A, then you're fine. But I gotta say, going into the scene, I did not remember this bit. And I was like, man, what did he do to cheat his way into getting an A? Like, I legit thought there was a trick involved in this.
Of course there's a trick involved. But before we discover what that trick is, we should note that while all this is happening, Bart is being lavish with attention and gifts and crowns and music. And you can visibly see Lisa's just sitting there like, what the fuck, y'all? Like, hi, A student over here. And even Marge is just like, now that our son is an honor student, I'm going to get one of those bumper stickers that informs strangers of that fact.
It's super important. Everybody should do that.
And Lisa again is just like, they're like seriously, what the hell? But they want to hear Bart's story of how he earned an A in astronomy, and Marge is legitimately like, how'd you do it, Bart?
I just buckled down and studied.
Homer's like, no, really?
Well, it all started last week in Krabappel's class.
Ooh, and we fade to see the classroom with Bart hanging out.
I was trying to breed the hamster with the lizard to create an unholy super creature when I saw an even worse crime against nature.
And you actually see Bart like holding a lizard and a hamster in a cage, like trying to like push them up together. But behind him, the classroom door burst open, and Skinner and Krabappel come through, and they are full out like making out in this classroom.
Head lice inspection day. While the kids are out getting their nits picked, we can have our own private cootie call.
Oh, you talk too much, Seymour. Let's do it on Martin's desk.
It is usually the cleanest.
Bart's
doing like it's lice inspection day and Bart's not getting inspected.
Yeah, he's skipping that. And he had lice not too long ago too. Yeah. Also, Martin's is the cleanest place to have sex in the school. That's funny. Martin's desk, whatever. Bart's kind of going into a voiceover here, and you can see that he definitely does not wish to be viewing this. And he's like, I really needed to get my mind on something else, anything else. So for the first time in my life, education was the answer. And we see that
he ducks into the closet in the classroom, and that's where he's looking around in the closet at this point.
And he discovers an old astronomy chart that has the planets, and he literally is just repeating them in order, over and over and over. Basically, he's studying. He's studying to distract himself from seeing his teacher and principal bone.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars.
And in the background, off screen, we hear Skinner, oh, come on, Edna. Don't be tardy.
Oh, gosh. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto.
And we fade back to the restaurant where Bart concludes his tale.
So when I took the test, the answers were stuck in my brain. It was like a whole different kind of cheating.
Yeah, again, it's called studying. It's hilarious. But and Marge is just like, well, we couldn't be prouder.
Whatever it takes to get him to study.
Unfortunately, however, that pride is about to fade because the waiter comes to collect the bill and informs Homer that his credit card has been declined. Yeah, that's right. Homer tries to basically cover. He's like, oh, how embarrassing. Let me just find another card. And then he instead grabs a fistful of other credit cards that are presumably overdue or overdrafted or whatever. He just throws them in their face as if they were dust or chalk in a wrestling match. And the Simpsons dine and dash. However, before they can make it out the door, the host pulls on the please wait to be seated sign, which is actually a secret lever that causes a metal door to close, preventing diners from dashing.
And it's Mary Kay.
Yeah, her name is Mary Kay, and she's dressed in all pink, and they didn't really talk much about it, but this is pretty visibly a reference to the Mary Kay makeup product line. That's essentially what that uniform looked like at the time.
Yeah. It seemed, I was like, is there something I'm missing here? That's what it felt like.
I wanted them to talk more about it. It's mentioned on IMDb, but they didn't talk about it at all in the commentary. And it really does feel like there was something maybe left on the cutting room floor on that one, which that actually reminds me, I do have a commentary track to talk about on this one. The commentary for this one featured Matt Groening, Max Frost, Matt Selman, Carolyn Omine, Mike Scully, Don Payne, and Rob Lebsepik, which was the writer of this show, and it was his first script that he wrote. So kind of a big deal, and he got to talk about this a little bit on the commentary. I don't really have a ton of information. I have a fact to tell you now, and then a great story that we're going to say for the end about the table read. What I'll say for now, though, is that this whole story was actually based on a book called The Magic Christian, where a billionaire spends his money for maximum laughs, is the whole concept of the story.
Oh, gosh, what could go wrong?
Well, and he basically just he's like, well, we already have a eccentric billionaire in Springfield. What if we just kind of map that story to him? And this is what happened, which I think overall is pretty good, especially for a rookie script.
Interesting. But the Simpsons are screwed, Miles, right? No way out.
Well, they're like, what are you gonna do if we can't pay, type of thing. And they find out that they're going to be the mariachi band, apparently.
That's how they always get new bands so quickly, man.
Yeah, that's why they're like, by the time it's the next night, it'll be a new family that you couldn't pay.
It's like a horror movie.
Miraculously, though, the Simpsons are pretty good. They're singing La Bamba. Yeah. They're playing instruments. They're the maitre d' is even praising their technical proficiency, but they do lack passion.
You want passion, eh?
And Homer starts singing a song that I don't know the lyrics to, and they are not listed here.
Yeah.
But yeah, he goes into a very romantic rendition of the song Spanish Eyes.
But hey, that's all they have to do to pay for their meals. I guess they'll never get to sleep because Homer will have to work, and then they'll have to sing in the evenings.
Well, I think that's just a one-time thing. I don't know how often you have to sing to pay for one meal. I guess it depends on how expensive the meal was.
I was saying they can keep going back there and just singing again and get the free meal.
Yeah, there you go. Homer will be eating while singing. It'll be a new art form. But Marge, they do finally get to leave at the end of their shift or the end of the night when the restaurant closes. And Marge is visibly upset. She wants to know when this happened to their family. When did we become the bottom rung of society?
I think it was when that cold snap killed off all the hobos.
That's such a dark joke, but also really funny. We cut to the back seat where Lisa's complaining, "Dad, what happened to the back seat?" And you see that there is no back seat. Bart and Lisa are literally standing on the chassis of the car
to keep from Flintstoning it.
Yeah, and the ground is moving fast because they're not Flintstoning it; they're driving. Homer explains he had to sell the back seat for gas money, and as he says it, the car sputters to a stop because he explains, "Which I spent that gas money on a novelty horn." When he bangs his head out of frustration, you hear, dun, 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 dun.
Homer, we need to talk to a financial planner.
Financial Panther, eh? And we cut to a fun sequence where Homer has a fantasy that he is standing in a bank where he's not able to get money out because he's overdrawn. And instead of, having to deal with that problem, Homer just cries out, "Get him, Sheba!" And a panther leaps and mauls the banker.
I'm on board. Which you'd still have an overdraft account even if Sheba attacked the banker.
That's true. Maybe he was going to rob her to cover that dollar. I don't know what the rest of that plan was, but Homer seemed happy. And they do, in fact, agree to go to a planner, or at least Homer thought it was a panther, but they end up going to see a financial planner.
You haven't set aside anything for the future, and this is the financial planner talking to the Wiggums.
That's right. Well, you know how it is with cops. I'll get shot 3 days before retirement. And the business, we call it retirity.
What if you don't get shot?
What a terrible thing to say. And Sarah begins to cry. Now look, you've made my wife cry.
Wiggums had a couple really good lines in the season so far. It's
excuse me. Oh my God. I love this so much just because honestly, there's a lot of truth to that. Not specifically with cops, but just with our whole society. It's if you don't die at the right time, you're just fucked. Which I shouldn't be laughing about, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Thanks America.
I find it weird that there's episodes about financial advising when I've actually been like trying to get more involved with my 401k and like thinking about talking to a financial advisor. Why do the Simpsons have to mimic my life, Miles? Why?
They're ahead of their time, man. They're ahead of their time.
There's just so many episodes that talk about everything.
Which, speaking of everything, I think Lindsay Naegle might do everything because we've seen her in many roles, this time as the Simpsons financial advisor. She's talking to the Simpsons now and explains that you have several mortgages, credit card debt, no savings, and you're supporting your father.
Just give the word and I'll cut him off.
Oh, I couldn't ask you to do that.
Consider it done.
Based on these figures, I'm afraid you'll need to declare bankruptcy several times. Just look at this projection. And this is actually a really great bit of animation here as we get a computer model, like simulation of the Simpsons aging. And it just shows like the year count and the Simpsons are just like getting very old and homely looking.
Saggy.
Yeah.
I think it goes 40 years into the future.
And Homer's just appalled because like, Marge, your posture looks terrible.
What's interesting is you'll continue losing money even after you're dead. Your grave sites will go untended and vandalized.
And we see a computer age Nelson who's kicking the headstones of the Simpsons and going, ha ha.
Mr. Simpson, your intelligence profile dictates that you're too stupid to stick to a budget.
Yes, go on.
Let me put this simply. You need more money.
And how do I get it?
I'm a financial planner, not a financial consultant.
Oh, sorry.
Now, I'd like my fee, please.
I honestly hate this industry for this reason, for what it's worth. But it's a very funny joke. Homer writes on a piece of paper and hands it to Lindsay Naegle, who responds, I know you're not deaf or mute, Mr. Simpson. We've been talking for the last 20 minutes. And Homer goes back to the old trick he used at the beginning of the show where he pulls all the useless credit cards out of his wallet and throws them in the face of Miss Naegle, grabbing Marge and running away. This time it does work. They don't have to wash dishes or sing at the financial planning office.
It would be funny if you had to financially plan with people.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
All of Springfield is broke, which in turn helped the Simpsons out.
I think that would have actually been a really great joke there. But yeah, I can understand why it didn't get made, but I do also think it would have been funny. We, for the first time, cut away from the Simpsons in this episode, and we see Mr. Smithers and Burns at the Springfield power plant, where Smithers has a small personal request.
Oh, of course, Smithers. Click, 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 click.
He's literally tapping on the trapdoor button like over and over and over again. I disabled the button, sir. As you know, I've been... anyways, I need some time off. As you know, I've been writing a musical about the Malibu Stacy doll.
A show about a doll?
And before on that, I love that the entire time, even after Smithers has told him that the button is disabled, Burns like continues to press it for a good while before giving up. But yes, then he starts laughing about a show about a doll.
Why not write a musical about a common cat or the king of Siam? Give it up, Smithers.
If you didn't catch that joke, Cats and The King and I are two of the like most famous musicals of all time. And honestly, like this joke is funny, but also wouldn't Burns know that more than anybody? Like he's the only one in Springfield that has the money to go to Broadway, and he's been alive long enough to have probably met the original King of Siam.
Okay, we were just making jokes about this. There's so many episodes of The Simpsons. It's okay if you forget some stuff in the middle there, Miles. Mr. Burns has been alive for so many years. It's okay if you forget some stuff.
Cats just fell out of his lexicon, huh?
Well, because it's just a terrible musical.
Fair. So Smithers explained that they actually booked their show in a small theater in New Mexico.
Whoa, slow down there, maestro. There's a New Mexico?
You missed that one too, apparently.
Yeah, but that's a repeated joke from the past, but it's always funny.
Of course. So Smithers, in fact, takes a week off, and Burns approves it, saying that he'll be able to amuse himself And to prove his point, he actually pulls out a pistol and points it at Smithers, pulls the trigger, and a flag comes out that says bang in that typical prankster fashion. Only he's frustrated. He's like, so did it work? And he pulls it again, and it actually shoots out and sticks into Smithers' chest. We see Burns actually like walking around the power plant on his own, trying to entertain himself, which is an interesting visual because again, you don't really see it too often. And if you do see Burns, you usually do spot Smithers with him. But
he finds out, well, I don't have the old ball and chain. Let's see what I can find.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he goes to like a candy machine, like a vending machine, and he's mad that when he requests toffee, it doesn't give it to him.
And don't wrap it. I'm ready to eat it now. Just stands there looking at it.
In the power plant's cafeteria, Homer is having a beer at lunch with Lenny and Carl, and he says he's trying to build up the courage to ask Burns for a raise.
What is this? Some kind of force field around? Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Burns. Before we get to the salad bar, Burns walks into the cafeteria and he's trying to go to the salad bar, but he's clearly never encountered a sneeze guard before.
Yeah, and Carl tells Homer, "This is your chance, man. He's here right now."
Go get it.
That's when Homer finishes his fourth beer at lunch.
Which honestly, 4 isn't enough for Homer to get confidence. 4 is enough for Homer to have a baseline level of like functionality.
Oh,
Burns can't wrap.
What is this?
Yeah,
some kind of force field around these vegetables.
That's the sneeze guard. You have to lean under it to get the salad and to sneeze on stuff.
Everything's so green and alive.
But as soon as Burns breathes on some like broccoli, it immediately goes from like beautiful and green and leafy to like shriveled up and brown. Mr. Burns, I was wondering if I could get a raise.
What kind of a raise?
Whopping?
I see. You have 30 seconds to wow me.
Well, sir, you see, sir, I've worked here a long time, and my wife has a game leg, and my kids have game things as well.
I don't want to hear your whining. I'm a bored and joyless old man. Give me a laugh.
A larf? Okay, let's, what's in the news today?
Oh, for the love of... Here, hurl this at that.
And Burns hands Homer a cup of pudding and hands it to, or points at Lenny. Homer's like, at Lenny? But he's a war hero.
Well, let's decorate him then.
No.
Not even for $4?
Oh, well, whoop, and he grabs the money and throws the pudding.
And he's got good aim, Miles.
It hits Lenny square in the face, and Lenny's like, ow, my eye! I'm not supposed to get pudding in it.
That was capital. My lung is aching.
I liked when I threw the pudding.
Do it again, and I'll make it an even 8.
You're the boss. So he hurls another thing of pudding straight at Lenny's face once again, to which Lenny's like, ow, I'm in hell.
Let's keep the laughs coming, eh, Simpson? He remembered his name. Yep. Let's say I make you my executive in charge of recreation. No. Better yet, my prank monkey.
So close to having something that would have looked good on a business card. But Homer's just like, will you keep giving me money?
I can't have my little monkey running around in rags.
Woohoo! So Homer's in delight, and just for fun on this one, he lobs a pudding at Carl. But Burns is immediately like, he starts like chastising Homer.
We don't do that to Carl.
And Burns helps Carl to the eye wash station. Yeah,
it's kind of the eye wash station. Like
poor Lenny.
We learned he's a decorated war hero, which makes his story a lot more sad, honestly.
Don't tell people how I live. Yeah, it does. It's so funny. But that's how we end our first act, which I'll note is 7 minutes and 57 seconds, which is almost perfect third split for what it's worth. very good start to the episode. I like the first act, like we talked about a lot. Very often, the very beginning doesn't actually have that much to do with the rest of the story. But I do think this one flowed and tied in nicely. We see the Simpsons celebrating. They can't afford it. They're in money problems. And now Homer has seemingly a option to make some more money on the side as we kick off our second act, which features Homer and Burns now on the streets of Springfield looking for more opportunities to play pranks on people. And Burns sees an opportunity to prank Comic Book Guy when they see him in the store wolfing down some marshmallow peeps.
Isn't he on like 100 or something?
Say again?
Isn't Comic Book Guy like numbering how many he's eaten, and he's like up to 100 or something like that?
I don't know if he's counting, but I do love this very edgy joke that they put in for television, at least, because he's munching down these peeps, and he's like, if only the real chicks went down this easy.
Oh.
on the commentary, even Carolyn Amine is like, I can't believe we got away with that one. But Burns sees an opportunity to stir up some mischief, so he sends Homer into the store.
I'd like to buy a mint condition Spider-Man #1, please.
And I'd like an hour on the holodeck with 7 of 9.
Homer opens a briefcase that's full of money.
Oh, Saturn's rings. Let me get that for you. And Comic Book Guy is like very dramatic. He's putting on gloves. He's pulling out like a tube from the container. And it has, in fact, that Spider-Man #1 comic with a price tag of $20,000 on it. Comic Book Guy is like literally using tongs and tweezers to show Homer. And he's like, would you like me to put this in a paper bag or triple mylar?
No thanks. I'll just eat it here.
Rip. Oh, no! What are you doing?
Rip. This is the cruelest thing I've ever seen, for what it's worth.
Comic Book Guy is literally on the floor crying as this legendary comic book, which is an actual comic book with a very similar price tag. It's probably actually worth more today than it was at that time. I think it is worth a lot
more than that now.
But it literally has sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and Homer eats it page by page in a nonchalant fashion, while Comic Book Guy is just having a complete breakdown.
As an avid Spider-Man fan, this is the cruelest thing I've ever seen.
But Burns loves it.
That was uproarious. First-rate job, monkey.
Homer asks for his money, and already you can see that like the dignity aspect of this episode, or the amount that like Burns is dehumanizing Homer, we'll say, is increasing already, because now instead of handing Homer cash, he's just tossing fistfuls of cash at him, making him like grovel and pick it up off the ground, grabbing like single bills.
And then a bicyclist like bicycles over Homer while he's trying to pick it up, which makes Burns much more fun. Or Burns says he's much more fun than Smithers.
Yeah, you get hurt more. That's basically what he meant. Hey, speaking of Smithers, how's his play going? Which who's he's talking to? Because how would Homer know this? Like this was for Burns was talking to us, the audience, on this one, so they had a reason to segue and cut over to a theater in Albuquerque, where on stage we see a life-size Malibu Stacy Corvette with Smithers in the like Ken role, if you will, for like the Barbie crossover, and another actress playing Stacy. Smithers and Stacy are sitting on the hood of this Corvette. They're acting like dolls, so they're kind of like being stiff in their movements. And they sing the song, or Smithers has a solo song called Sold Separately.
Sold separately. Sometimes I feel like I've been sold separately. But out of the box, I find you posable.
And I kind of buried the lead a little bit on this one, but I'll be honest. Up until this line that I'm about to sing, I did not know if that was a human person or if like a giant doll that was on the card with Smithers.
She did a very good job acting.
Yeah, exactly. But she does move at that point and starts to sing along with Smithers. Lovable, just like me. And there's a man in the audience who's clearly bored, and this is better than a movie. Why?
I think that happens a lot at musicals, Miles.
I think you might be correct, sir. But this is just a quick segue to show that Smithers is, in fact, in a Malibu Stacy musical. That is happening. I guess that's our B plot, if we were going to call it that. For now, though, we're right back to the pranking action with Burns and Homer now hiding in a men's room at Springfield Stadium, which is a borderline creepy sentence to say for what it's worth. But when the time is right, Burns shoves Homer, who is only wearing a giant diaper, and he's literally shoved with like unburns-like strength onto the middle of the bathroom floor, which is crowded with people. And Homer is now laying on his back in a diaper, acting like a giant baby.
I need help. I made a boom boom.
For some reason, that rich socialite woman that we see in several episodes.
Hold up. All the men in there currently are all going like, ew, ew. And one guy even says, oh, not where I pee.
Yeah.
That one got me.
That's a good line for sure. Yeah. First of all, I can't even imagine a stadium bathroom is arguably the worst bathroom floor in the history of ever. Like that, yeah. I would rather lie on the floor of like a dirty bathroom gas station than a stadium bathroom because there's so many drunk dudes doing so many dirty things in there.
And there's just like troughs where it's just like you're not even gonna have your own little spot in a lot of them now.
Yeah, it's a weird place to be, honestly.
Backsplash everywhere.
It's the reason that the men's line is so much shorter than the women's restroom line has nothing to do with like how long it takes. It's that the men are just like so disgusted by being in there that they can only be in there for a short amount of time. That's my theory. But for some reason, this rich socialite woman walks into the men's room, and she is, of course, just absolutely like.
The women's room had a long line.
And she's like mortified by what she sees. It does note on IMDb that she is actually, her name is Mrs. Vanderbilt, and she actually is wearing a dress that is very reminiscent of the one that Marge makes in scenes from the class struggle in Springfield.
I had that note written down, so I'm glad that IMDb and I are simpatico on that.
Nice. So I really hope, I'm segueing because it's distracting me. My dog is laying next to me snoring, and I really hope that's being picked up on the mic right now. So everybody is just going to be like, what is that weird squeaking sound? It's not a squeak toy. It's my dog. But regardless, we cut to Dr. Hibbert's office, who is giving Bart a shot because now that Homer has money, they're catching up on a few things. In this case, 6 years worth of inoculations.
There you are, my good man. And while you're at it, throw in one of those polio shots.
Oh, yes, sir. And Hibbert grabs a giant hypodermic needle and is about to stick Lisa with it when Homer interrupts.
Anti-polio.
Oh, so he grabs a bigger needle. Which, this is another joke that I think is ahead of its time in a weird way, just because of how stupid the debates about vaccines are right now. I think a lot of people are under the impression that they are getting the COVID vaccine to like get COVID because they're dumb, as opposed to the anti-COVID. Maybe it's a marketing situation. Maybe the vaccination should have been marketed to dumb people as anti-COVID.
Maybe show. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe if there's an advertising company behind it that people trusted, like McDonald's or something, then they would want to get it.
Yeah, not dying of COVID. I'm loving it. Perfect.
Yeah. No, that's
I'm
getting shot.
Marge is there you go. Marge is becoming suspicious of like where's all this money, or she specifically says, where did that ball of money come from?
I've been doing some outside projects for Mr. Burns.
Really? Like what?
Business stuff, downsizing, e-solutions, the glass ceiling.
Buzzwords. Oh, well, I'm proud of you. You're such a good provider. Kids, come on, thank your father for the injections.
Thank you, Dad.
And they're like rubbing their arms in the way that you do after you get a shot. We cut now from the doctor to the zoo, Springfield Zoo, where they are opening up, or like there's a big celebration for a new panda exhibit. Pandemonium, I believe is what it was called. Mm-hmm. They have all sorts of stuff like souvenirs, balloons, a panda ice cream cone, which they said that they were really tired the night that they were working on that, and for some reason, just the guy like throwing the the handfuls of like whatever to make the eyes and mouth of the panda just cracked them up. So it was impressive. I don't know how hilarious it was though.
We see Milhouse and Kirk.
Yeah, Milhouse is actually trying to get the panda cone that I just mentioned. He asked his dad for some money.
God, what do you do with the $68 I send your mother every month?
Weekday dad wanted a DVD player.
Oh, oh man.
It's okay, Kirk. He probably doesn't have a race car bed.
Yeah, that's true. He probably just sleeps in a big bed with his wife.
We cut to behind the scenes where behind the panda exhibit specifically, Burns has actually got Homer ready for another prank. This time he has him dressed in a panda suit. And Burns is like evilly gleeful about the situation that's going down right now. He's like, basically he's going to have Homer go into the panda exhibit and do the Lindy Hop, which was an actual dance that was popular in like the 1920s and 1930s. So very, very on brand for Mr. Burns.
Yeah, and Homer's like, why do we have to do the Lindy Hop? And Burns is like, that's the whole thing that brings it together.
That's the heart of the bits, yeah.
That's the heart of the bits.
So Homer's in costume. The zookeeper presents the new panda. From the courtesy of an anonymous donor, we welcome our new panda, Simpson.
Clever name.
And that's when Burns encourages Homer to go out on stage or into the exhibit, really.
Don't be shy. That a girl? Oh, I think she's getting ready to.
Oh, and this is actually the zookeeper. I messed up on that one. So the zookeeper is like, yeah, don't be shy. And basically Homer is the female panda in this situation. Pandas are endangered, so zoos are often trying to find ways to get them to mate. And the zookeeper is very surprised when he finds out that she, or Homer, is doing the Lindy Hop.
That's it. 23 skidoo, 24 skidoo, 25 skidoo.
Well, it looks like Simpson is a little frisky today, so our trainers are going to calm her down. Zap, zap. They start hitting Homer with cattle prods. Don't worry, folks. Because of their thick hides, pandas only feel the slightest tickle from these powerful electric shocks.
Then we get the like Iron Man inside the suit view of Homer inside the panda suit. So I guess Simpsons did it first, Miles.
That's fair.
Reminiscent of that.
Even Jarvis talks to him, which is weird. But no, Homer is like screaming in pain, and no one can hear because of the panda costume is apparently thick enough to muffle Homer's screams, but not thick enough to like insulate any of the shocks.
Oh, she's saying, I love you.
Oh, the audience cheers. But inside, Homer is being shocked. Can't take the pain. And he literally collapses, and smoke starts coming out of the eye holes of the panda costume. It's an actually pretty grim-looking scene.
Oh, and it gets worse. But first, Ralph goes, Simpson likes to boogie.
Lisa realizes, though, something's wrong. Terribly wrong. And that's when we see a male panda run in or walk into the enclosure with Homer, who is presumably a female panda at this point.
Hey, there's our resident bull panda, Ping Ping. With any luck, folks, these two will become very, very close, if you know what I mean.
Ping Ping starts to sniff Homer. Homer comes to and is like, huh? Help! Mr. Burns! As Homer's trying to run away, he trips and lands on a boulder, which puts his butt in an upward position.
Oh, look.
I think you get what I mean.
She's presenting. I thought this would take years to happen.
Oh, God. Again, as a youth, I found this scene hilarious. And I'm laughing now, so I still do. But definitely some of the humor on this is a little bit sophomoric, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Well, it's okay, Miles, because in all reality, Ping Ping just asked Simpson to marry him, and I think she just said yes.
Aww, and the entire crowd starts to clap as they close a curtain. I can't remember exactly what it said. I was wishing it was written down, but it's basically like, the pandas are going to have some alone town now.
Well, it said pandas need their sleep too, or something like that.
Yeah, but they're not sleeping, folks.
Homer.
Homer's still trying to get away, and as he's like crawling to safety, Ping Ping drags him back, and I love Mo is like doing commentary here.
You ain't going nowhere, cutie.
Which Mo has probably got a history of smuggling pandas. If we haven't actually seen that, it's definitely happened.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we saw that specifically, but now I can't remember if it was another animal or not. Who knows?
He'll see in this next morning when he wakes up. We'll find some other animals there.
We cut to the next morning, and Sim Sim and Homer are like, Ping Ping is holding Sim Sim or Homer in his arms, like they're spooning essentially.
And yes, for what it's worth, Homer just got violated.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
By a bull panda.
They don't really go into it much more, but it sure seems like I don't know.
Sure did.
But Homer finally finds an opportunity to escape. He gets over the fence of the panda exhibit, but he gets his foot caught on the barbed wire at the top, causing him to hang upside down. His helmet or his mask falls off, making his head at least exposed so people will be able to identify him as a human. But unfortunately, he's not found by humans. He's found by a pack of skunks who at first he's very excited to see, but then they, of course, spray him in his face.
Excited to see.
Yeah. I think he's just anything's better than the panda that violated him at this point. But as Homer, who's just been violated by Ping Ping and is hanging upside down by his panda costume with no helmet or mask and now reeks of skunk, and this is how Lisa discovers her father and is, of course, just, I don't know, shamed or pitiful, or she's definitely feeling some emotions towards her father.
I honestly am surprised how clean the panda suit looks when Homer gets up to walk away. And I don't mean that from a sex standpoint. I just mean in a general standpoint.
Sure.
Take that.
No, that's fair. I will note the time on this one. The act ends at 13 minutes and 53 seconds. So this was just a slightly shorter second act, which I think is somewhat common, leaving us just a little bit of extra time for the third act on this one.
Here we go.
We open up now. Homer sans panda suit is only wearing his underwear and a beige blanket. He and Lisa are on the park bench, and Lisa is trying to help him clean up some of his wounds. Homer confesses to Lisa what he's been doing for burns, requiring a lot of self-degrading stunts. And Lisa tells him that it's time to stop. But when she does, at that moment, Mr. Burns walks up.
Well done, monkey. That other panda gave some unexpected zazz to the festivities, eh?
Maybe for you. How come you didn't rescue me?
Too busy trying to keep my sides from splitting. It's happened before. Monty say, monkey do. What could be better?
Well, you could treat me with a little respect.
Oh, shut up, you tub of guts.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Well, a little do-re-mi will smooth this over.
And he holds some money in Homer's face, but Lisa protests. He doesn't want your dirty money.
Oh, come now. Everyone has his price.
Not my dad.
Shh. The grown-ups are talking, honey.
Lisa's upset, though. Dad, how can you put a price on your dignity? Homer responds to this, though. She's right. Yeah, I might be naked and reeking of panda love, but I've got to stop this before it goes too far.
Take that back for $903.
I retract my statement, and he immediately grabs the money.
No,
Lisa's like, Dad.
Into his mouth.
Oh yeah, that's right. Burns puts it into his mouth, and Lisa's even more upset. She's like, Dad, and Homer with a mouthful of money is like, I mean, screw you.
Well, it looks like my monkey has evolved into a man. A poor man.
What? Oh, why did you have to say that extra thing? So Homer is now struggling. He's now may have his dignity, but he's no longer has an income, or at least not one other than his like regular job that apparently doesn't pay enough. But he's also got all this dirty money that he's no longer comfortable with because he wants his daughter's love and affection. So he's like, I guess I'll throw it in the garbage.
Well, there's a lot of needy kids out there.
I see what you're saying. I need to buy a gun.
Like
again, this is America.
That's where I was like, that was such a freaking dark joke. And I said at the top of the episode, there'll be a darker kid joke in this one, but like, oh my gosh. I don't know how they got away with that one.
I like that the script on this one says that we've already done the gun plot and Christmas is approaching, so they do something else. Lisa suggests they suggest the money to the needy. Homer thinks that's a dandy idea, so they march off. And this time, though, as he's walking away, the only thing he's wearing is a towel or like a blanket over his underwear, and he gets that blanket caught on a nail. No, his underwear is caught on a nail on the bench, which basically pulls away everything, leaving him naked. And once again, the socialite from the men's room earlier comes out and faints at this sight.
The socialite from the men's room. What a weird line.
But that is an accurate statement. I realize it's weird that what I said is in fact accurate.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's just funny.
Mrs. Vanderbilt.
Honestly, in my opinion, it might be funnier than the episode. I don't know. We'll
fun. We go to a familiar place here that we've been to a few times in the Simpsons history. It's a store called Costington's, and it is now the Christmas season. I don't think we've actually seen that until this point in the show, but it apparently is coming up to the holidays in this timeline. And for some reason, I guess Mr. Costington is just one of those rare, conglomerate business owners that likes to work in the freaking actual store itself, because Mr. Costington is down in the store like checking people out.
And then we've got the stroke guy as well.
Oh yes. Homer is basically wanting to buy all of the toys in the store is what he's wanting to give to people for Christmas, and Costington is actually impressed.
Well, the stroke guy calls him on the phone, and he's like, Mr. Costington, you won't believe what's happened. No. No. Yes.
And Mr. Costington, though, when he hears about Homer's generosity, he says, I don't think I've ever seen such a thing. You're a modern-day Kris Kringle, sir.
I'm just trying to dig myself out of a pit of shame.
Say no more. I've had a bit of a shoe-sniffing problem myself. I'm still not allowed on the third floor.
That's okay.
And they embrace. Costington explains, Mr. Simpson, I just had a crazy thought. We do a little Thanksgiving Day parade, and you're about the right build for a little fellow they call Kris Kringle.
And then we cut to the Simpsons' living room with a weird-looking Santa suit.
But it's very reminiscent of the very first episode of The Simpsons, no? Like, it's Homer preparing to be the Santa Claus. That was the job he got in Santa's Little Helper.
I'm just saying, like, the actual suit just looks a little bit... I feel like it's missing some white garland around parts of it or something. Very Costington-Z.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Homer has regained his dignity. Everybody's proud of him. Lisa's so proud that she's like, my father's going to be the grand finale of the Thanksgiving Day parade.
Want to rehearse, Dad?
I don't need to rehearse. Ho, ho, ho. Merry line?
Christmas.
What? Let me see that. But we see that apparently thanks to global warming, Springfield has an 80-degree day for the parade. Kent Brockman and Lisa Gibbons are our hosts. We get giant character balloons, just like the Macy's parade that we're used to on Thanksgiving. Bart is a little bit unimpressed, though, because they don't have, like, the A-team, if you will. Not like the A-team as in, like, Mr. T, but, like, the better of the teams. Because we get Rusty the Clown. Aw, Springfield gets the lamest balloons.
Are you kidding? There's Funky Winkerbean. Over here, Funky. Oh, look, it's a Noid. Avoid the Noid. He ruins pizzas.
I think avoid the Noid is one of the weird jokes that is going to be lost to the fact that like I don't think anybody knows what the Noid is anymore. But the Noid was a mascot for Domino's Pizza back in the 90s, and at some point, at the height of his popularity, he was so popular that they actually made a NES, an original Nintendo video game about where you played the Noid.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the worst game either, for what it's worth. But the Rusty the Clown is actually a reference to Matt Groening's childhood, because in that episode, in Matt Groening's childhood, he grew up in Oregon, and there was a actual show called Rusty Nails. He was a TV clown that played locally in 1960s Portland, Oregon.
Well, good for Rusty. You got a shout out, buddy.
There it is, man. The dream, right? To be shouted out on The Simpsons. Still waiting for us to get that one day. It'll happen. The parade goes on.
Miles, maybe it's already happened. We just haven't gotten to that season yet.
Holy shit. How crazy would that be if it's like season 31 and we just haven't caught it yet? I feel like somebody would have tweeted us. I would hope somebody would have tweeted us. The parade continues, and we see kids in the crowd starting to get excited. There's like a little kid who's like talking to Lisa. Hey, lady, Santa Claus is going to be here, right? He just has to.
And while patting the boy on the shoulder, Lisa says, something tells me he is.
Hey, don't touch me. Nothing gives you that right. Consent, people. That's important.
I mean,
the Simpsons are ahead of their time.
Exactly.
We see a float of a giant pen and pencil set made out of gingerbread.
Which asked Lisa, the other announcer, like, do you like gingerbread? And she's like, not really. And he's, well, you'll love this next float.
He completely ignores her. Yeah. But following this unimpressive gingerbread pen and pencil set, Homer, the main event, if you will, it's Santa Claus, and he's tossing presents to the children along the parade route, shouting, "Merry everyone!"
He does the line, "Ho, ho, ho, merry everyone," and he still hasn't gotten that line down.
Not quite gotten it down right, but he's still overall being a positive influence on his community. He's bringing joy to children. He is being the hero his daughter wanted him to be, but he's also about to be boarded by pirates, or at least a pirate-themed float, which is driven by Mr. Burns himself. And it even says on the side, "Happy Pranksgiving," which immediately alerts Lisa that something bad is about to happen.
You know, I'm thinking if he's saying "Merry Everyone," maybe that's him being ahead of the game too, with like the all-inclusive holiday season there. Oh
man, yeah, the Simpsons, the war on Christmas that doesn't exist started 21 years ago apparently.
And this is the second time in this episode Homer's being boarded. So
this time it's not with bamboo though.
Homer afterwards.
Mr. Burns is literally like boarding Homer's float. Like again, it's like a pirate theme thing happening here. But Homer is clearly not planned for this. Like, what are you doing here, Mr. Burns? I told you, I'm not your monkey anymore.
Silence, monkey. Now that you're Father Christmas, we have an opportunity to bend this town over our knee and give it a pranking it will never forget. Here's what we do.
And get whispering, and Homer is visibly like mortified by this suggestion. Whatever it is, we haven't heard it quite yet. Ken and Lisa continue their commentary. Here's a float saluting the Native Americans who taught us how to celebrate Thanksgiving.
Interesting side note on this float. The paper mache is composed entirely of broken treaties.
Oof. That's a good fucking joke. I'm not going to lie. Kent Brockman is like, oh, they're good sports. And also note that this paper mache float, it's literally like the offensive Cleveland Indians portrayal, like the red-skinned tomahawk chopping, like everything that is like been deemed offensive about that is this. And the cherry on top of this joke is that whole, it's made entirely of broken treaties, which is a fucked up but very accurate joke.
Well, I mean, they can change it to the Guardians next season, so that'll be okay.
Oh yeah, I'm less talking about that and actually about like the atrocities that happen to the people.
Saying, like,
yeah.
when they do syndication episodes after this season, they'll have to change that head.
Oh, got you.
The new baseball logo.
The it'll be a very confusing joke at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's probably a lot of broken contracts in baseball, and it'll be entirely composed of broken contracts. Nope, I don't like it. We're keeping it. All right. Burns continues to try to talk Homer into his plan. Homer is still like, no, I'm not doing it. Not for any amount of money.
Not for $1 million?
Oh, that's so much money.
Screw my dignity.
But the thing is, Homer's not worried about his dignity at this point. He's looking out at the kids, the happy children of Springfield on the sidewalk, and he's like, Santa can't be evil, but it's so much money.
You don't have to be evil Santa, Homer. You just have to be evil Homer.
Just be evil Homer.
Homer.
So we kind of do a transition here where we cut and we see that the Santa float is now coming towards where Kent Brockman and Lisa are. They're hyping it up as everyone's been waiting for this one.
Yes, whether you're Christian or just non-Jewish, everybody loves Santa Claus.
And we see that Santa is on the float throwing something from a bucket to the children.
Oh, he was supposed to be throwing out toys, but he seems to be hurling some kind of candy treats, Lisa.
Wait a minute, kids. That's not candy. That's fish guts.
How does she know?
I know, it's impressive to spot that from that far.
That's why she's got the position, Miles.
And it is, in fact, fish guts. It's pretty gross. It looks like chum. I mean, it is what it is. They're getting a whole lot of grossness slung out over all the children and adults of Springfield, including Lenny and Carl, who are on standby, excited to see Santa Claus. Lenny has been told by his doctor that he can only take off his eye patch for 5 minutes a day, and he's going to do so now to get a better look at Santa.
Splash!
And immediately he gets it in the eye again, which he's already having loads of issues with that today. And the fish guts themselves might not have been so bad, but then Sideshow Mel sees the horror coming.
The seagulls are coming!
And that's when it basically becomes an Alfred Hitchcock movie and everything is going to hell. Lisa is visibly disappointed. Oh, Dad, you sold your soul.
Not yet, honey.
Dad, but if you're here, who's on the float? And of course, it is in fact Mr. Burns has taken the Santa costume and has taken over the role of Santa Claus and is celebrating in his own way. He also is struggling with the lines, though.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Fishmas.
And he's literally spraying everybody again with chum. Homer explains that let's just say that I gave Lisa an early Christmas present, the gift of dignity.
Splash.
And the family is embracing together, but they get completely doused in fish guts, which brings us to the end of our third act and the end of the episode. We get the normal end credit music. However, at the very end, when you get the shh, instead, this time we get Baby Made a Boom Boom. But, Rich, that's going to do it for Homer versus Dignity. Is there anything else that you or that book of yours want to say about this episode?
I will now count things in real life by saying skidoo this episode. I feel like this episode wraps way too suddenly. Like, way too suddenly. There was no real good payoff for me in this one. And I felt this way even the first time I saw the episode as a younger viewer. I feel like the pranks that they pull are kind of boring throughout the episode. I feel like there's no real apex in this one.
Hey, legendary comment you got there.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of this episode, and honestly, like, I felt bad because I knew you were really looking forward to this one, but I just watching it again, there's some good jokes as always, but it's just, I mean, it's not up there for me. It's not anywhere near being up there for me.
That's fair. I think that's completely reasonable. I still very much enjoy this episode. I was looking forward to it. 100%. No, that's actually what I am going to go into, though. I've already teased it. I think people probably pretty much put together some of my ideas and thoughts on it. But there's a lot about this episode that is very immature. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Immature humor can be a very funny concept and has a lot of places where it's the right choice. But this one, it does just kind of get a little bit like you're absolutely correct about like how quickly it resolves. It's a little bit like just all right. That felt weird. Honestly, this one like feels like they decided that they were gonna like make it a Christmas episode like at the very last second, or a Thanksgiving episode or whatever. It felt like maybe that they could have played into that concept a little bit better and had a little bit stronger story if maybe the struggles was about the concepts of Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't know, maybe that would have made it worse. But it just felt like suddenly it's like, oh, by the way, it's Thanksgiving, so you're going to be Santa Claus. It's like, what? Like, where did that come from?
2 months, so we're going to cover all the holidays with this one episode.
Right. Yeah. And that very well might also be what it was. It sounds like I enjoyed this episode more than you did still as an adult, but this is definitely an episode that younger me appreciated and enjoyed more than adult me did, which I think that across the board, there are more episodes that I appreciate more as an adult or appreciate in a different way as an adult than I did as a kid. This is, I think, the exception to that rule, or one of the exceptions to that rule.
This might actually have a chance of making my bottom episode. Well, I mean, if this was the season finale, it would be my bottom episode.
Honestly, I mean, minor spoiler alert, but I would absolutely already have Insane Clown Poppy below this one, no doubt. But I will say that you know what? I'm actually going to say too, I think I would rate this one above this year's Treehouse of Horror. I didn't really love this year's Treehouse of Horror.
I forgot about that one. I kind of don't count those in those viewings, but it's very, very.
I do count them, but they do kind of often get like, well, I'm just going to make an exception because that one's not canon. But yeah, I do try to consider them whenever I make my list. But if I had to pick right now, Insane Clown Poppy would definitely be the least favorite episode of the season. But it's still early. We are only 5 episodes into this season, so we've got a long way to go. There's 21 episodes total. We're not even 25% of the way through. And this episode, I definitely, it sounds like I enjoyed more than you, but
that's okay. We don't have to agree on every episode.
100%. More interesting.
Don't you agree?
We don't even. Yeah. Perfect. So on that note, however, I did tease something from the commentary earlier. I told you that I had a good story to tell you, and I stand by that fact. So I mentioned at the top that this is the first episode ever written by Rob Lesepic. And because of that, when you get to the table read, it's like a big deal. It's a very exciting time for your first script. And a lot of times they will make it like a special type of thing. In this case, Rob was able to invite his entire family out. He had his wife and his children there for the the script reading of this episode. And right off the bat, this episode started strong. Like the opening acts, everybody loved. Everybody was having a good time. It was getting huge laughs. But when it got to the third act, there were originally some differences in the script that just, when it hit, it just killed the room. It was basically disturbing. To the point that nobody was laughing. So you had this joyous room, this happy occasion, 2 acts worth of just pure like, yes, this is a great episode. You knocked it out of the park on your first script. And then you get to the third act and suddenly it's just like, oh, this is bad. Nothing good comes from that. And I'll tell you what happened. So basically the ending prank was originally just way, way too harsh. Because in the original script, instead of Mr. Burns tossing fish guts on the children, Homer was going to still be in the Santa suit tossing pig blood on everybody while crying, "Merry Christmas." Again. Oh, and then they were going to cut to like the whole ending, instead of like the dignity line, was going to be they were going to cut 50 years in the future, and Homer was going to be explaining, and that's how it went from being Christmas to Slaughtermas or something like that, or Slaughterfest or something like that. Literally nobody in the room was laughing except for one person. Larry Doyle was laughing hysterically, but it was at the situation that he'd been there before. And he was just like, oh my God, this guy is like whole day is just like crashing and burning. And Rob Lasepic remembers looking at Larry and just thinking, God, I wish this guy would just shut up. Like he thinks it's hilarious now, but it's like at the time he was just like physically hurting. And all of the commentators, Carolyn Omine, Matt Selman, Mike Scully, they all chimed in and talked about how like it's just truly as a writer, one of the most painful experiences is when your table read takes a turn like that live in the room. It physically hurts you.
Added burn of his whole family was
So they kind of they rewrote it. Obviously, they changed it around. They made Burns stay the villain. They redeemed Homer a little bit, but they still got stuck on the actual ending there for a little while. And finally, after like hours and hours of trying to pitch ideas to figure out how are we going to wrap up this episode, somebody was just like, well, I mean, we could just go with a happy ending. And everybody in the room kind of just shrugged and was like, yeah, all right.
That totally makes sense with how quick it wraps up too.
It kind of does. When you brought that up, I was excited to have this story to share because I do agree that I do think that the first couple of acts start stronger on this one, and then that third act it just gets a little bit like that's where you're like suddenly it's Thanksgiving, Homer's Santa, we're gonna throw fish guts on people, and it just like all wraps up in a matter of moments.
It happened faster than Miles was able to say Christmas. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. All right, that is going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly review show. Everyone, make sure you follow Richie online. He is at thewiz_kid23.
Make sure you follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. And also follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
We will, of course, be back again with probably another Best Darn Everything very soon. And the next episode of The Simpsons that we are going to be reviewing is the Computer Wore Menace Shoes.
And if you come back to listen to us, I don't want to hear you whining. Just remember, Miles and I are two bored and joyless old men. We're just here to give you a larf.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.